Spirit and I are one.
Let me tell you about a time that I didn't even know, even close to knowing that. I was a freshman in college. I had only taken a few classes, and there were some electives. You had to choose one of 3 of these electives. And so, knowing the profession I wanted to go into, I chose this class called public speaking. Yeah. And so we had to do our first talk, 5-minute talk. We could choose anything to speak about for 5 minutes. And at the time, I was also learning how to play racquetball. And so I thought, I'll talk about racquetball. And so the night before I was to deliver my first ever 5-minute talk, I threw up all night. I couldn't sleep. I was nauseous beyond belief. And having not slept the night, working on that 5-minute talk, the next morning I went directly and promptly to drop the class. Never took public speaking. Can you imagine that? Well, Renee, you let me know. Or maybe not. Yeah, isn't it amazing? And on that particular day, what happened is I let fear win out. And I let fear grab hold of me really well. And I let fear keep me from moving through it and find my way to courage so that I could explore that thing called public speaking. Little did I know I had to do that later on. But, you know, fear can run our lives, or we can decide to run with it. We can decide to walk with it. We could decide to embrace it. We can decide to live a wholehearted life, and that's what we're talking about this month. Live that wholehearted life, which means we have to be willing to move through some uncomfortable moments and not allow fear, which is going to happen, right, to just really grab hold of us and let it run our life. You know, I don't know about you guys, maybe some of you, maybe all of you, I don't know, but there's this one particular character that I tend to think about, and I know it's sort of dated and it's sort of old, but there's this one particular character when I think about courage that I just can't help to want to just check in with and see what he says about it. So let's see what he says.
Here, go away and let us alone.
Oh, scared, huh? Afraid, huh? How long can you stay fresh in that can? Come on, get up and fight, you shivering junkyard. Put your hands up, you lopsided bag of hay.
Now, that's getting personal, Lion.
Yes, get up and teach him a lesson.
Well, what's wrong with you teaching them?
Well, I hardly know him.
Well, I'll get you anyway, Pee-wee.
Shame on you.
What did you do that for? I didn't buy them.
No, but you tried to. It's bad enough picking on a straw man, but when you go around picking on poor little dogs.
Well, you didn't have to go and hit me, did you? Is my nose bleeding?
Well, of course not. My goodness, what a fuss you're making. Well, naturally, when you go around picking on things weaker than you are, why, you're nothing but a great big coward.
You're right. I am a coward. I haven't any courage at all. I even scare myself. Look at the circles under my eyes. I haven't slept in weeks.
Why don't you try counting sheep?
That doesn't do any good. I'm afraid of them.
Oh, that's too bad. Don't you think the wizard could help him, too?
I don't see why not. Why don't you come along with us? We're on our way to see the wizard now, to get him a heart.
And him a brain.
I'm sure he could give you some courage.
Well, wouldn't you feel degraded to be seen in the company of a cowardly lion? I won.
Oh, of course not.
Gee, that's awfully nice of you. My life has been simply unbearable.
Oh, well, it's all right now. The wizard will fix everything.
You know, the wizard will fix everything. The wizard will fix everything once we really get that the wizard is within. You know, as we go through this journey with the Cowardly Lion, you notice that, well, we'll see maybe later, but you notice that nothing is really like added to him. It's already within. All the strength and all the courage already lies within. It's just, do we let this fear turn us into something like that? Brene Brown in Daring Greatly tells us, and I love this. This is probably one of my favorite quotes in the book. You can choose courage, or you can choose comfort. You can choose courage, or you can choose comfort, but you can't have both. And isn't that sort of true for our experience? Courage tends to be uncomfortable. Moving through and expanding ourselves tends to be a lot of discomfort. And so we're going to bear witness this morning together with some of our own community members that have moved through some courage, and they're willing to be vulnerable so that we can appreciate their gift. Now, you've certainly seen this person before, and so this is certainly not her debut, but I love what she's singing about. And she's singing about strength. And it takes a lot of strength, even at, no matter how many times someone does this, it takes courage and strength to put themselves out there. So let's give it up for Ocean Laude, Daphne Edwards.
Lost touch with my soul. I had nowhere to turn, I had nowhere to go. Lost sight of my dream, thought it would be the end of me. I thought I'd never make it through. I had no hope to hold on to. I thought that I would break. I didn't know my own strength, and I crashed down and I tumbled, but I did not crumble. I got through all the pain. I didn't know my own strength to survive my darkest hour. My faith kept me alive. I picked myself back up and hold my head up high. I was not built to break. I didn't know my own strength. Ooh. Found hope in my heart. I found the light to light my way out of the dark. Found all that I need right here inside of me. Ooh. I thought I'd never find my way. I thought I'd never lift that weight. I thought that I would break. I didn't know my own strength, and I crashed down and I tumbled, but I did not crumble. I got through all the pain. I didn't know my own strength, survived my darkest hour. My faith kept me alive. I picked myself back up and hold my head up high. I was not built to break. I didn't know my own strength. There were so many times I thought I'll never make through the night. I thought I was all that I could take. Oh, I didn't know my own strength. survived my darkest hour. My faith kept me alive. I picked myself back up and hold my head up high. I didn't know I would break. I didn't know my own strength. Survived my darkest hour. My faith kept me alive. I picked myself back up and hold my head up high. I was not built to break. I didn't know my own strength. Ooh. I was not built to break. I got to know my own strength. Yeah.
Yeah, takes a lot of courage to sing Whitney. Way to go, Ocean Latte. That was awesome. And like the Cowardly Lion, we don't know our own strength. We have so much strength. We have the power and the presence within us. It's intellectually we know that, but do we know that? So, okay, really. I was really wondering, what does Ernest Holmes say about all this stuff called courage? And what I really loved is that he says, about courage, mind you, we all need a little more backbone and less wishbone. Leave it to Ernie to say it just like that. There is something which waits our own recognition to spring into being, bringing with it all the power in the universe. It is awaiting our own recognition to allow ourselves to have the courage to unleash it and to let it go and to let it out. But again, we can choose courage or we can choose comfort. And do we want to stay in the comfort or do we want to move through the courage? And choosing courage doesn't mean that we need to be unafraid. It's not about eliminating fear. If you figure that one out, please tell me how. I don't know how to eliminate fear. But what I do work towards is every time that fear comes up, am I willing to go through it and not let it stop me? So, this little character called the Cowardly Lion, if some of you have seen our beloved movie, The Wizard of Oz, he goes through, like the other characters, all these trials and tribulations. And then he finally discovers the power within. Let's check in on him.
I were king of the forest, not queen, not duke, not prince. My regal robes of the forest would be satin, and not of a cotton, and not chintz. I'd command each thing, be it fish or fowl, with a woof and a woof and a royal growl. As I'd click my heel, all the trees would kneel, and the mountains bow, and the bulls kowtow. And the sparrow would take wing. Fie, fie, were a king.
What if it were a brontosaurus?
I'd show him who was king of the forest.
How?
How? Courage. What makes a king out of a slave? Courage. What makes the flag on the mast to wave? Courage. What makes the elephant charge his tusk in the misty mist or the dusky dusk? What makes the muskrat guard his musk? Courage. What makes the sphinx the seventh wonder? Courage. What makes the dawn come up like thunder? Courage.
What happens after that? Oh, you had to answer. We got a whole room full of people. Right. He's like, after all that, he's gone through everything, and still in the end, he's king of the forest, and here he is, and then he's like, yeah, I don't have courage. Is that the way it feels sometimes? It doesn't matter what we've done before, but now we're doing something new. Or how about that dream? How about that one thing, that creative expression that we've always known is inside of us, and yet we're still not willing to unleash it and let it out? Why? You know, it takes courage to be our authentic self. And yet, what Brené Brown tells us, and she's so brilliant in this, she says that you can't get to courage without walking through vulnerability. And that's where I think it stops for us. We have to walk through vulnerability first. So here's what she says. Vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. It is the source of hope, empathy, accountability, and authenticity. If we want greater clarity in our purpose or deeper and more meaningful spiritual lives, how many's up for that? Vulnerability is the path. I know this is hard to believe, especially when we spend our lives thinking that vulnerability and weakness are synonymous. But it's true. I define vulnerability as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. With that definition in mind, let's just think about love. Waking up every day and loving someone who may or may not love us back, whose safety we can't ensure, who may stay in our lives or may leave without a moment's notice, who may be loyal to the day we die or betray us tomorrow. That's vulnerability. Love is vulnerability. Love is uncertain. It's incredibly risky, and loving someone leaves us emotionally exposed. Yes, it's scary, and yes, we're open to being hurt, but can you imagine your life without loving or being loved? I mean, if that's not one of the biggest things that we fling ourselves out into the world of connection and relationship, it's love. Loving another, whether it's a child, a wife, a husband, a spouse, a partner, whatever it is. To put our art, our writing, our photography, our ideas out into the world with no assurance of acceptance or appreciation, that's also vulnerability. To let ourselves sink into the joyful moments of our lives, even though we know that they are fleeting, even though the world tells us not to be too happy, lest we invite disaster. That's an intense form of vulnerability. She continues, the profound danger is that, as noted above, we start to think of feeling as weakness. We're losing our tolerance for emotion and hence our vulnerability. And Brené says that it starts to make sense that we dismiss vulnerability as weakness only when we realize that we've confused feeling with failing, and emotions with liabilities. That if we want to reclaim the essential emotional part of our lives and reignite our passions and purpose, we have to learn how to own and engage with our own vulnerability and how to feel the emotions that come with it. Now, there are a lot of emotions that come with vulnerability. And so, what is vulnerability to you? Someone, shout it out. What is vulnerability to you? What? Not gonna look good. Someone said exposure. Truth. What does vulnerability mean to you? Risk. Transparency. Pain. Accessible. Uncertainty. Authentic. Weakness. Open. Couple more. A good steak. Excuse me, Richard.
I'm always being misunderstood. I don't understand.
Right. You're always... A good state. Next. Yes. I mean, I don't think we talk about this enough, and yet we must be willing to be vulnerable, to allow ourselves to throw ourselves out there. Someone at the first service said naked, right? To really be exposed, to be naked. And allow ourselves to move through that vulnerability. And what happens? We want other people to be vulnerable, but heaven help me be vulnerable. Right? Please be vulnerable, but I'm not gonna. And so we're constraining this power, this presence, this exquisiteness that is within each of us. I got to witness a lot of that. We just finished a 60-person foundation class, a very special class, not because of the size, but because of the people in it. There was a mixture of people that had taken foundation class before and people that had never taken foundations class. And so there was this beautiful mix and connection between everyone of the questions and the conversations and the sharing. And at the end of this 12-week class, there were projects, there were class projects. And all of them blew me away. And there was one in particular, not unlike anybody else's, but there was one in particular that when she did her project, it instantly struck me, having no story behind it, like, oh my God, that took a lot of courage. She had to be so vulnerable to be willing to share this with 60 people standing on this platform in front of 60 people. And I actually got some emails from fellow classmates right after that and said, wouldn't it be awesome if she could share that in a Sunday service? Today's her day. Do you know I asked her? Because again, I had no story. I just had this strong hit. And I asked her, I said, Tammy, had you ever written anything like that? And most importantly, had you ever stood up in front of anyone and done that before? She told me right after first service, no, never. And she was yet willing to be so vulnerable and so courageous and just put herself out there. She did not drop the class. She moved through it. And so I invite you to soak up Tammy Woods as she shares a poem that she wrote for Foundations class.
Awakening to the dawn. I saw you yesterday. I saw you hiding behind your honeyed hazel persona, and I tried to say hello. To really say hello. But alas, you were too busy. You were too busy withdrawing into a concocted view which safely shelters a resemblance of true identity. And knowingly, I recognize this hurry, for all can see the falsehood of a soul's shadow and its toiling to create instead of allow. Pedigreed born into life's fertile crescent, we happily accept society's desert mirage, yet stand perplexed as rainy seasons only trickle in. This self-imposed exile from Eden caused me to believe there had to be fallacy in me. So what did this say about we? As I am the life of God birthed into the infinite existence that molds its sources, great I am. I now awake to a new yet strangely familiar blasphemous cosmos that gently summons me to move toward the magenta and indigo dawning, which slowly reintroduces me to me again as I remember to remember. I no longer buoy unto limiting constructs in the desert, but instead choose to anchor unto the cornerstone of consciousness that there is one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect, and that powerful life is my life now. This God has allowed God to come back to God, giving her infinite possibilities to outstretch to new heights while leaving life's unknown labyrinths to pass go to the sweet nectar that awaits in her own secret garden. A garden which gardenias satiate the senses and provide lush peaks and meadows of vast reservoirs of possibility. Will you too allow the morning dew to awaken the power and the passion that is you? Walking in the light gently eradicates all sense of separation while paying reparations beyond conscious explanations and evaluations. It whispers to me in sensuous slumber to simply believe in the we that is me. And in doing so, obsolete patterns dissolve, exposing the blinding truth that I am what I am. Now, what shall I create with that? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you.
I'm deeply touched that Tammy would let her light shine so that we could experience that. And I can only imagine what it takes to move through all of that and to move through the vulnerability, to instill the courage to stand up here and to share that gift with each of us. And that's what the call is for each of us to do. That is what we're called to be. Brené Brown says, sharing something that you've created is a vulnerable but essential part of engaged and wholehearted living. It is the epitome of daring greatly. But because of how each of us were raised or how we approach the world, we've probably knowingly or unknowingly attached our self-worth to our ideas, creative expressions, thoughts, and actions. In simple terms, if they love it, we're worthy. If they don't, we're worthless. And so there's this whole underpinning of grounding our own selves into this self-worth, to know that by, again, the mere fact that we're born, we're worthy. And that no matter how someone else feels what you create or your idea or whatever, it's a permission that one can give themselves because there's so much self-worth that we're at least willing to express it to see what happens. And then no matter what the reaction is, albeit great or maybe not, we were at least willing to move through the vulnerability to get to courage to say, regardless, I know I am worthy. And that can happen every single day, no matter if we got everything on our to-do list done, no matter if, our child shows up exactly as we want them to be. Maybe they have another idea of what they want to do than we thought. It doesn't matter that we anchor ourselves in the knowing of the power and the presence and the strength within us that we have that self-worth. Because if we link our self-worth to what we create, what happens, knowingly or not, is each time we become afraid to attempt again or again or again. Or moving from one career, 23 years of sales, into ministry, having no idea how that would work out. But with each step, just allowing the vulnerability and the courage to take us on that ride. So what I really want you to just be with this week, starting with today, is what is the dream? What is the voice? What is the creative expression? What is the thing that, asking someone out on a date, whatever it is, it's something that is stirring in you, and it's like you don't let the fear keep you from moving through it. You allow yourself to be vulnerable, to be spread out and naked, and say, why not? Because I'm worthy. And you allow yourself to unleash this amazing force that we each are, this courage that rules the forest. Authenticity, ending with Brené Brown, authenticity is not something we have or don't have. It's a practice, a conscious choice of how we want to live. Authenticity is a collection of choices we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real. And that's our theme for this year. Keep it real. This is the community, trust me on this one, where you can be real, be yourself, write a poem, stand in front of 60 people and become a best-selling author. We're each and every one of us here to support one another, to say, unleash, let it out, be the God, great, divine, worthy self that we all are. And so it is.
So I just invite you to breathe that in. Breathe it in. Breathe it in. Ocean Lottie sung to us, we were not born to break. We can either choose courage or comfort, as Brené Brown writes. So let us go within with that admonishment to be the greatness that we are. There is truly one life, one presence, one power, one infinite love. It is the life divine that is moving in, through, and as all creation, and that includes you, and it includes me, and all beings everywhere. And yes, it is true, we are here for a purpose. Our purpose is to be that light, to share that gift, to be all that we can be. Most importantly, to be who we are. And so this morning, let us affirm our courage in the midst of fear. Let us affirm our strength in the midst of uncertainty. Let us affirm the very power and presence of life itself, living and moving and supporting us as we give the gift that is ours to give. Whether it's writing a bestseller or raising a child, whether it is a creative expression or building a business, creating jobs, whether it is gardening, tending our garden in the backyard, or saving the planet. Each and every one of us, we have a gift to give. And this morning we affirm and declare and accept and allow that presence and power to be the truth of who we are. To allow that gift to pour out of us, to stand naked in the wind and allow the sun to shine as our very lives. Knowing that everything we need, we have. All the support is there. And no matter how it is received, it is in giving the gift that we are truly set free. We let it be, and so it is.
Amen.